Alright, cool. Show the audience. Can I see it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Pedro back behind there. Cool. Alright. Cool. The lighting is terrible. Oh, what the hell is this? Alright. We're all gathered here today to share in the memories of my great-grandpa as he takes his final journey into heaven. Most of you knew him as Warren G or WG, or also as Doc. From being a war hero of World War II to becoming a doctor, a family man, and a friend, WG touched the hearts of many in his life. Even though he was known as all these things, to me, he was known as Papa Doc. I remember growing up, going to his house, and he had a swinging porch set out on his porch, and we'd go out there, and he would sit, and he would tell me war stories about how he was in World War II, and I remember every time he'd tell me, he would always have to tell me about how he was the first person to raid Auschwitz and, go into the camp and save everybody, and he was one of the few soldiers that got to do that, and then every time he would tell that story, he'd always lift up his arm, and he'd show me a scar of where he had gotten shot. And every time, I don't know how many times I've heard this story in my lifetime, but he would always tell me that. And every time he'd tell me, I can't forget it. He'd always tell me, but he wouldn't look strictly at me. He would look off into the distance, and he would kind of start to get a tear in his eye. And I imagine it hit home, but it took a lot of courage to tell me that story. And that right then and there, I knew that he was a very courageous man for what he had done for his country. And he used to tell me after he got out of the war and was done with the war and the war was over with, he came back and he went to college and he attended chiropractic school. And if some of you don't know, chiropractic school is very expensive and it takes a very long time to get your chiropractic degree. But once he got done, he started his own business in Arkansas City, Kansas, where I'm from. And he carried on his business and got to know a lot of people. And his words were, he can heal people through the practice of chiropractic practice. And so those words stuck with me, and of course, his son, my grandpa, took on the business and carried on the legacy in Arkansas City, Kansas, and everywhere I go, everybody either knew WG Sellers or Larry Sellers, which are my great-grandpa and grandpa. So, a few other memories that I have of him is, I remember one time I had to stay with my grandma and grandpa, or great-grandma and grandpa, when my parents had went to Montana, and of course, it sucked. I was in school, so I didn't get to go. But I had a very, very adventurous time there. I got to learn more about them. I stayed with them for 2 or 3 weeks, and I remember every morning I would wake up before I would get ready for school, and my grandma would always have eggs, sausage, and 2 pieces of toast for me, both me and my grandpa. And of course, my grandpa, he always had to have that, and he had a cup of coffee. And on them 2 pieces of toast, he'd have apricot jelly, and that's when I got introduced to apricot jelly. And let me tell you, it was some good stuff. And if there wasn't any in the house, he would go belligerent. Very stubborn old man, if you knew him. Another thing I remember is when I would wake up for school, he would get ready himself, and he was always mixed match. He never could match. He'd always have on a striped shirt with plaid shorts, black socks, and his loafers. And he would always think that he was good to go, and we just all chuckle and let him be. And he would he'd walk me to school, and he would pick me up after school, and he'd always be right there. Right when I'd walk out the doors, he'd be standing right there. And as we walked home, since he was so caring and he always wanted to know what was going on in your life, he'd always ask me how my day was, if I had made any friends, if I had a girlfriend yet. He would just ask silly questions. Being a kindergartner, I did kindergarten, first grader, I didn't know much about all that stuff. And another thing that I remember so clearly is when I was about 12 to 14 years old, he gave me a rock collection. And I guess when he was younger, or growing up, he used to collect a lot of rocks from all the different states that he traveled to and all that stuff. And so he gave it to me, and 12 to 14-year-old in the 21st century, I was like, okay, thank you, and I took it with a smile. But of course, he was so excited to give it to me and share his hobbies that he once did, and hopefully I would take those hobbies and make them mine. But of course, I didn't. But another memory that I remember is I used to go over there every day, or during the summer, every once a week or twice a week or something like that. I would go mow his grass, and he would always hand me a $5 bill. Always hand me a $5 bill. Every time he handed it to me, he would that was a lot. That was with the allowance that he paid me for mowing. But every time I go over there, he'd hand me a $5 bill, and he'd always say, "You take that money and you go buy you something nice." And of course, $5 we all know can't get you too much. But back when he grew up, $5 was a lot. So, but he was always willing to give that $5 to me and my brother, no matter what. So, but like I said, he was a war hero. He served his time. He fought for his freedom. He's a caring man. And I too have joined the military to carry out the tradition that my grandpa once did. And all these memories will be uppermost in my mind as I move on to continue my life's journey. And I know that he is looking from above and smiling at the fact that I'm fighting for the freedom of this country. And I too have become that caring man that he once used to be and will always be in my heart. I thank you all for coming. Spread it around, boom, 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 and then my roommate, Miles.